I'd like to introduce my co-presenters on the stage, Fatima Kamadwala, who is a psychology student at Liverpool John Moores, and in a minute I'll tell you a little bit about how the sequence of this afternoon will go, and Fatima will be able to tell you her story. Heather Turner, who is the TB specialist lead for the TB nursing team at the Royal Liverpool and Broad Green University Hospital, but works Mersey-wide and community support to TB nurses.
So, Fatima, we're just going to obviously talk about your treatment journey, but I just want you to describe how being diagnosed with TB while you were in Blackburn, starting standard treatment, coming back to university in Liverpool, how that was affected by them being contacted and being told that you had multi-drug resistant TB. How did that?
I think it started last year in summer, where I had a persistent dry cough for about 2 months. It started off with night sweats, where I had to wake up in the middle of the night, change my clothes because I was drenched in my own sweat, put the fan on so my mattress can dry up before I can go back to sleep. I went to the doctors quite often, and it took a while. I think I had a bronchoscopy to finally finalise the fact that it was TB. So I did the 2 months of standard treatment at home. I didn't go anywhere. In my third week, I was okay to go back to uni, so I was starting semester 1 at uni. And 3 days into uni, I received a phone call from Blackburn Hospital to tell me that I had to come back and just bring a few pair of clothes with me.
So you had 2 weeks of standard treatment?
Yes.
And then you were told it was multi-drug resistant?
Yeah, so in my third week, I was, I think, 3 days into uni when I received a call to say I had to come back home. So I got the train back, came home, and as soon as I went into the hospital, they gave me a mask and put me in a separate room.
So did you know at that time what multi-drug resistant TB was?
Absolutely not, no. I didn't get much information from my doctor either, so it was only until I got taken up to a negative pressure room. I Googled everything myself, really. I asked the nurses what I could, but they didn't know much because the doctor was the main.
So you started standard treatment?
Yes.
And then, because it was multi-drug resistant, you were put into isolation for 50 days?
Yeah, it was 50 days exact, that I was in isolation. I wasn't allowed to see anyone, no contact with anyone, there was no windows, or, I was completely on my own in the whole process.
So you were in a negative pressure
Yes.
room. How many visitors did you have during your 50 days of isolation?
Just one. My mum came to see me every day. She'd spend around £5 every day for parking, though, so when we totaled that up for 50 days, it did end up being a lot of money, and we didn't know that we could. No one let us know that there was a policy where if you pay 3 times, your 4th ticket's free. We didn't find that out until very late, so there was no point. So we did end up spending a lot on tickets, really.
So your mum came to see you every day?
Yes.
And some of the things that happened whilst you were in isolation were a little bit strange. The shower wasn't working in the bathroom.
Yeah, so I didn't think of it as anything strange because I feel like because I was the one with the condition, it was as though I was blaming myself for what I was going through. So everything they did was okay to me. So it started off with we had a little room before my room where they used to get changed into their masks. There was a big yellow bin there where my lunch used to be left every day. So they'd leave my lunch on the bin, and then once they've left the room, I can open the door and take my lunch and go. My shower didn't work very well, so my mum used to have to use a jug and wash my hair for me. They didn't want to come in.
They wouldn't fix the shower because the maintenance.
Yes.
People were terrified to enter the room.
Yeah,
so
I could hear them talking.
You didn't have a working shower.
No.
And your food was left on the bin outside your room?
Yeah, I think it was just a hassle for everyone to wear the mask, and there's only a few nurses that were actually fit tested to come in anyway. So I think it's something I was used to, though. It was from the start, it was like that.
Everybody that came in had to wear a mask, a visor, an apron and gloves.
Yeah.
So it was too much hassle sometimes. So therefore people spoke to you through a glass window.
Yeah, I used to have like a tiny little window on my door where they just communicate, really. Never saw my doctor at all, to be honest. I think I saw my doctor twice, my consultant. That too when I asked to see him. Otherwise, he didn't really like the idea of getting masked up.
Okay. So during this time that you were in isolation, did you come out of the room at all? Did you go anywhere within the hospital?
I didn't, apart from when I had a PICC line put in. Once I had the PICC line put in into my, they take you for an X-ray, which I was completely covered. I had gloves, a mask, a theatre outfit, and I was just dragged across the wheelchair.
So you were transported around the hospital with a mask,
yes,
gloves, theatre gowns,
yeah,
on a bed. So, okay, so that must have been quite frightening. What did it feel like when you left isolation?
Slightly strange, because I only had a few nurses that would attend to me, and they always wore masks. So when I left the room and everyone was talking to me, I didn't really know who I was talking to, because I'd never seen their faces before.
So that must be quite frightening.
Yeah.
So in terms of being diagnosed at age 20 with multi-drug resistant TB, how's this impacted on your life, Fatima?
Once I came out of isolation, I think I suffered more from anxiety and going around and talking to people. Like when I came back to uni, I struggled with crossing a specific road. For some reason, my body would just not go across that road. And I only started acknowledging that really later on, that there was something going on. I didn't like the idea of people looking at me, possibly because I was on my own for so long. Even at home, when people came to see me, I used to zone out myself. Sometimes I'd get too overwhelmed where I just want to cry. And it was hard to tell anyone because no one really around me understood what it felt like to come out of isolation.
So you came to university back in Liverpool, you transferred your treatment to Liverpool, you came into our team, and so then you underwent 3 days a week of IV therapy?
Yeah, so I had to go to the hospital 3 times a week. So I'd plan it around uni. So I'd go to uni, and then after uni I'd go to the hospital. Travel costs to that totaled up to quite a bit because I had to go 3 times a week. And when I was going through side effects, so because of the side effects, sometimes it became harder to walk to the hospital myself. So I was taking a lot of taxis, and it was very time-consuming.
How long did each visit take when you attended?
The IV was 30 minutes, and then the before and after took 10-15 minutes more.
So how long did that go on for?
8 months. Yeah, 8 months. I did the same routine for 8 months.
And during this time, you continued studying?
Yeah, I did 2 semesters in 1 semester, so I completed semester 1 whilst semester 2 was ongoing. So it was quite hectic, to be honest. And it was really tiring every time I had the IV done. I was always really tired, but I had to go to uni.
And one of the things that were difficult for you was to continue your part-time job?
Yeah, when I got diagnosed, just before I got diagnosed and talks were going on about it being TB, I got dismissed from my job just because I was obviously contagious and it wasn't safe for me to be around people. So I got dismissed from that job quite early, which was hard because my parents had to basically give me money all the time to do everything I wanted to. I applied for the personal independence allowance with the working pensions, and they declined me. I went in for an interview, took all my medical records, and they score you out of 12, and I scored 0 on everything. So I felt like they didn't really know how hard it is to deal with drug resistance.
And in terms of the university, did they offer you any support around your studying?
They do,
with side effects?
They do a disability. It's like so they were offering a laptop where I can record the lectures when I'm too tired, or you can talk to the laptop and it'll help you write and things. But that appointment, when I went to it, the lady that was supposed to deal with me walked out because she didn't want to treat me anymore. She was too worried I was contagious, so I didn't go through. And after that, I didn't really feel like contacted them, so I just left it.
So we advised you that there wasn't any help with costs travelling 3 times a week, so you had to go through the Department of Work and Pensions and the standard assessment form.
Yes.
And that was another difficult experience, wasn't it? Because they...
Yeah. They basically told me that what I had wasn't enough for them to be like, okay, we can give money for this.
So you got 0 points on any of the assessments, even though you were attending hospital visits multiple times a week and experiencing quite significant side effects and unable to work and had been sacked from your job in Clark's.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to work anyway because I wasn't well enough. And I felt like they didn't see the severity of the condition, maybe because they weren't educated on it or whatever the reason was, but they made me feel like what I had wasn't big enough for them to help me.
And some of the issues with stigma that you faced when you were actually going for treatment were quite interesting, how you experienced those, transportation and going around the hospital, because obviously the condition is hidden.
Yeah, so I had one instance where the IV centre was upstairs on the 3rd floor, and I used to wait for the lift, and it was always a long queue at the lift. So I waited for a couple of minutes, got into the lift, and it was a busy lift, and an old man looked at me and told me I shouldn't be in the lift, that I'm quite young and I should be taking the stairs. But in that instance, I couldn't say anything because I felt like the condition that I had would scare everyone in the lift, so I had to stay quiet.
So you couldn't access the lift because no one would want to be in the lift with you if they knew you had TB, and you couldn't actually walk up the stairs because you felt too breathless.
Yeah.
So that was a tricky situation.
But I forced myself to take the stairs for a long time after that, because I didn't want to, because they can't see that I'm sick or they can't see that I have a PICC line in. I felt like my disease wasn't there and I couldn't blame them for it. I always felt like I was the one going through it, so it was my fault. They were okay to do that. It took me a while to get past that it wasn't my fault.
So in total, Fatima, how long is your treatment?
20 months. It was a year in September, and I'm due to finish my treatment in May 2020, so I've still got a while left of medication.
And during this time, you've educated yourself around drug-resistant TB, you've educated your family, the people around you, fellow students, and you've actually become quite active in support groups to try and educate people around multi-drug resistant TB and TB?
Yeah, I feel like for me there was no one really there apart from my nurses that I really enjoyed to see, because I couldn't talk to my friends. It was like living two lives really. I went to uni and I wasn't sick, but then I'd come home and I'd have a box of medication that I have to take. So it was constantly battling between the two. I couldn't tell anyone because no one really knew what MDR-TB was. So, and the whole explaining to them was useless because they still wouldn't get it. So I think for me, I hope that someone can get help from me instead, because I needed that person when I'm going through it. So I'd like to be that person for someone else. And I feel like it's shaped me really. I'm quite interested in MDR-TB now, and I'm basing my dissertation around it as well. So it's changed my life a lot, yeah.
So what could you teach us as healthcare staff at the NHS to deal better with multi-drug resistant TB patients? Because we're the regional centre, but we do see only a few. So is there anything that you could offer us as advice?
To be honest, I quite like the idea, like TB nurses like you, they come round and visit just to have that informal conversation with me and stuff. But I think there needs to be more education on what MDR-TB is, because it's not very common, and I feel like because it isn't, no one really knows about it. And for people like me, I feel like that's not fair, because what I'm going through, no one really gets. Because if you say someone has cancer or malaria, everyone instantly knows what it is. But when I say MDR-TB, it's kind of pushed to the side because no one really understands it. So I feel like if more people knew about it and there was more focus groups, it'd help a lot.
And you were surprised how little knowledge people do have around TB as well, weren't you? Because actually people think TB has gone away from the UK. It's not an issue. Yeah,
and because everyone's usually used to the standard 6-month treatment, when I say MDR-TB, no one really gets it. And everyone just thinks, oh, it's just, the normal 6 months. But I'm going through a long process dealing with it, yeah.
Thank you, Fatima.
You're welcome.